Good morning and welcome back to the Overcompensated podcast. I am so excited. We are joined here today by Jordan Vaz, who's the founder of Vaz Events, a Black-owned, woman-owned events company that is creating curated, intentional experiences to bring people together in the Denver area. Jordan is a good friend of mine who has just done so many incredible things for the Denver community. So I would love to pass it over to you to introduce yourself, a little bit about you, and what brought you here today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. First of all, I was about to be like, I forgot I have my own. I think we met because of these mixers.
Exactly, the Denver Friendship Mixer.
Yes, so, I just recently changed the name because, we can get to that later, but I went from the Denver Friendship Mixer to the Friendship Mixer because of these expansion plans I have.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. We're the first to hear.
I know, you're the first to hear. The Friendship Mixer is something I started at the beginning of this year, and the mission behind it is really just to get people of all backgrounds and ages to feel safe in a space where they can make friends. It's a great opportunity for networking for people who are, business minded, but it's not networky. So I just want to create spaces where people can feel comfortable and make friends. That's really as simple as it is.
Which is so inspiring, and a lot of what this episode is going to talk about is like the rise of fourth spaces, which are essentially spaces where people can get together for community building activities with purpose and intention. If that purpose is to network, to develop professional connections, to develop personal connections, to create friendships. So the fact that you're creating these and you're really on the forefront of this like new movement, because obviously like third spaces are more like coffee shops and places that you can unintentionally get together. So that intentionality, I'm like so excited to discuss today, and I am so excited for future collaborations and just things that you're doing in the Denver area. So first things first, let's go back to the beginning. Can you tell me, like, how did your journey start? I know that you started out as a blogger, just sharing, connecting, and building community online. So how did you take that from online to in real life?
Oh, yeah. It was a passion project for a good 4 years. I had a blog online called Lifestyle by Vaz. It's still a blog. It's live and working today. But it had been dormant for a while, and so I was like, you know what? I want to do something in person. Like, I want to do something, IRL, as they say. What's funny, because my fiance has a different memory of how this all started. So I remembered that being kind of like the driver wanting to get together. But he told me the other day, this is brand new to me, he's like, don't you remember when you came to me and you were like, it would be cool to just have like a solid group of girlfriends that I could just like do regular things with. And I was like,
That sounds like you.
I'm not like mad about it. I'm like, I do love hanging out with the girls and going out. And he's like, yeah, you wanted like to have like a girls thing. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, I had just put out to some friends like, hey, if you want to meet up at Room for Millie and grab some drinks, let's do that. And I actually posted on Instagram as the Friendship Mixer. That just came to me, and I was like, it just sounds
Great
like
name.
a fun thing. Thank you.
Great.
It stuck. So then we just went and got some drinks. Coffee is it's okay.
No worries.
It's on my clothes, everyone. The couch is safe. The couch is safe. But yeah, we got drinks. There were 6 of us. We had a great time, and they're like, we should do this again next month. So I put it on TikTok, not knowing really anything about TikTok. I had just started using it. I was like, hey, if anybody lives in Denver, you want to come make some friends, meet up at Desert Social. And there were about 300 people that commented on that TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my god. Yeah, so everybody met up. It wasn't 300 people. 40 people showed up though. And I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do more of. And obviously people want to do this too. And then I committed to doing once a month.
Amazing. And when was the first one? When did that start?
So the very first one, the like small one with 6 of us, was January. The one with 40 people was February.
Oh my goodness. To just grow like 5x or 10x, I'm bad at math, in that tiny...
I didn't even question it. I was just like, yes.
In that amount of time is absolutely incredible. So obviously you started out with blogging, and I feel like that really involves finding your own voice and finding your own POV and really defining what you want to share with people online, people that you don't know. And I feel like that's a really good kind of like jumping off point for creating something where again, it's really like you putting this on for other people, but it still has a lot of like you and your essence and your personality in it. So how did you kind of like shift from like blogging, and what was really important to you about blogging and like defining that like voice and POV as like Jordan?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so the blog that I had, I started it because I wanted to be able to have the girlies of Denver have like a central spot or a hub to know where to go, where to eat, what to do. And it's funny because like when I started this, it wasn't like social media blogging was still pretty new as far as just like the local influencer thing goes. And so I was really trying to like be an influencer. Like that was like, I mean, that's kind of what, you know, we've gone through or are in that phase actively. So yeah, that's kind
Don't
of.
at me.
You know, we would all love to make a bag online.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
What is going on?
Okay. So anyway, yeah, I also really wanted to be a central spot for women businesses. So on the blog, still, I have a directory of women-owned businesses because I just enjoy spotlighting and highlighting small businesses, but also women. I love women, women's empowerment, celebrating women, and I'm like, okay, you know, this is something that I really love doing. So that naturally transitioned into the mixers because I realized we all live in like the lonely, what do they call it? The lonely crisis, the
loneliness epidemic? I thought that was only men.
I'm not, you know, it is everybody, but like fair.
It is everybody, okay.
Actually fair. Yeah, and I do have a solid group of girlfriends, but I've realized more and more as I've met, you know, people and other women that a lot of people don't have that. And so I'm like, okay, how can I use my Colorado native badge to then be like, okay, here's where we can gather, here's where we can meet, here's who I can introduce you to that's like a solid person, because it's just like, you don't know.
Absolutely.
People are just, you don't know. But I'm like, if I could be like a filter for people to know really good, wonderful people and then explore new places, then I feel like I've done something good.
Absolutely. And everybody knows that, well, everybody who lives in Denver knows that the Colorado native thing is like definitely a badge. So tell me what it was like being like a Colorado native, trying to create these spaces to bring people together of like all different backgrounds. And I feel like another thing that you prioritize is diversity. So it's people of all different races, cities, genders, which is absolutely fantastic. But what's your kind of like POV on like why that's important, how it started, how you got to in front of all these people? Obviously, TikTok is such an amazing tool. As someone who also uses TikTok and found you on TikTok, I appreciate it. So yeah, give me a little bit on that.
Okay, well, it's funny because I never intended the mixers or the events to be as diverse as they have been. It's been a really cool outcome of the events. Growing up here, I had a pretty diverse experience, like going to school and stuff like that. But in the greater scheme of things, growing up in Colorado, especially as a person of color, is just different. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a different experience. Because I went to school in California for college, and so being around like a lot of diversity where that's normal and regular almost was like a culture shock to me, because I was like, oh, I mean, my school was diverse, but like everywhere else you go in Colorado, it's just not what it is. And with these mixers, I had no idea who would show up or why, really, besides the fact that I was like, come make friends with me.
And as we're in the loneliness epidemic, everybody wants to make friends.
So it's been really cool to see how diverse the group has been, but not just when it comes to like race and ethnicity, just age, ways of thinking. I have had a large population of neurodivergent people come to the events, which also wasn't intentional, but I'm so glad it's happening because it's showing me that everybody who's coming to the events feels safe and welcomed, which is the goal anyway.
Absolutely.
So I'm just here for the ride and like, wow, this is really cool. Look what's happening.
I love that. Okay, so you went to school in California. Tell me why you came back to Colorado. What was the goal? A little bit about like your career journey up until this point.
I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
Why did you move back? Well, when I went to school, I didn't have any real. Gosh, we're going back. I didn't have any career passion. I was not a career person. I grew up, and my parents hear this or see this, who knows if they will, but like, Hi, parents.
Sure, what's up?
If you do, they probably remember I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I went to school fully believing that I was going to come out of college with a husband, married with 3 kids by 25. Like,
oh, wow.
Oh,
That's a quick turnaround.
Yep.
3 kids by 25. When are you graduating?
Yeah. It's the math didn't math. Nope.
Maybe we're both bad at math.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not saying I'm good at math, that's for sure. But yeah, so the trajectory I was on in college was really for the experience.
And the Mrs. degree.
And the Mrs. degree.
MRS degree.
Yep. I knew exactly what you meant. I was like, yes, that's what I was
Yeah.
going to school for. No, I actually studied communication. But anyway, when I graduated, I didn't want to stay in California because it was just too big, and Colorado was home base. So I was like, you know what? I'll come back home, figure it out. I knew I didn't want to work in a corporate setting because I did an internship, and I was like, yep, not for me. Can't do it. So yeah, I moved back home, was working at the mall for a bit, and then COVID hit. So I was living at home with my parents. They hired me at the salon, and for the last 5 years, I guess I should back a little bit. My family owns a curly hair salon. It's called More Than Curly. Slight plug. And yeah, so I was managing the salon for the last 5.5 years, just learning about business and management and leadership, and a lot of it was figuring it out as I was going. So it made it really easy, I guess, to organize these events just from a people perspective, and like understanding why, you know, when you get a crazy comment on TikTok of somebody who comes out of left field with something really rude or just sideways. I've had enough experience with client management to where
service.
Oh yeah, all of that, where I'm just like, all right, here's how I can continue to build a brand and not be like, you know, emotionally impacted, because I can be sensitive. I can be very sensitive.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
and also not crash out.
right, that part. Yeah,
that was my issue.
Yeah.
I have to, you know, keep my mouth shut when it's necessary.
Right. Right.
So I know that you mentioned earlier that, you know, you really were curating a list of like a lot of like small owned, women owned businesses around Colorado.
Yeah.
Did having, you know, your family members owning like their own small business really like help inspire that, and that just like goal of really highlighting and elevating small businesses? Because obviously it's really incredible. I went to one of your mixers where there were just like so many people who like popped up if they had like little like boutiques or jewelry brands, and just being able to like highlight those, you know, businesses that people might not see otherwise in a space, again, that kind of like breeds that intentionality of bringing people together to connect with each other, but also to grow. Like, were you inspired by your family's like own entrepreneurial journey? Is it just like in your blood?
Well, yeah, absolutely. My family has worked really, really hard to get to where they're at today, and seeing both sides of a small business, like being in it, and then also being, I guess when I say both sides, I mean like the managerial part and then working in the business, but then also when you support other small businesses, like there's this natural relatability. Like you know the struggle.
Yeah, like, you know what goes into it.
I know what you're going through. So yeah, my parents' business, and working for them for the last, you know, 5 years was a huge inspiration to me in wanting to highlight other small businesses, because I know how hard it is. And then we've been fortunate enough to have my dad, who is a tech savvy person. So he understands SEO. He understands marketing and everything like that, which a lot of small businesses, especially like younger women, like those are not skill sets you always come across or have. And so if I can be in any way, shape, or form a help or aid in getting their business in front of more people and getting them more emails or phone numbers, or just like things that they can actually hold on to that'll help grow their business, then that's what I'm excited about doing.
And I think that's absolutely amazing, because obviously people, and you as someone who's growing a small business, knows how hard it is to start building that foundation, building those relationships, and getting to a place where you're growing, because a lot of businesses, like, they don't want to just be stagnant. They want to find some way to continue growing, getting in front of more people. So I'd be curious, like, obviously it sounds like you went from a group of 6 people to a group of, 50 people in a month, which is incredible. But like, obviously there's growing pains that like grow alongside with like creating any kind of business, but especially a community, because it's so people dependent. Like, you have so many different people, personalities, things that have to go right, people that need to show up on time. So, like, what were some of the challenges in really getting this off the ground, since visibility seems to be your strong suit? What are some of, like, the weak points?
Ooh. I learned something new after every event. And I've been trying to do better about keeping a running list of, like, what I learned this time around, because it's like, I put it up here, but I need to get it on paper. I'd say the most challenging piece of it is creating a reliable system, because I think there's a part of me that is a people pleaser naturally, and so I want everything to be as easy for everybody involved, for guests, for vendors, for venues. And so learning how to create those boundaries so that the whole event and the whole thing can actually work. That means having to say no to people, having to make adjustments to things that might not make everybody happy. For example, I had somebody refer somebody they knew, and they're like, hey, my friend has this business, I think they'd be great for your event. And they reached out to me. Well, I looked at this person's Instagram, and there wasn't much there. So there wasn't enough, evidence of their work for me to be able to be like, oh, okay, you are an established business. There also wasn't a website. And then there also, honestly, I was concerned about the work itself. I was like, I don't know that I would say, hey, friend, you should go.
Right, that you would co-sign on it.
It wouldn't be a recommendation. So that was something for me. I had to learn, okay, I need to have structure around who qualifies as a vendor for these events and why, which is something I hadn't really thought about before, just because the people who I had, coming to the events were all people I invited. So I already vetted them. But now that people are asking to be a part of it, I'm like, oh, I need to have some, like, standards, some structure, and it's all, of course, for the benefit of everybody, but it's still like, it doesn't really feel good to be like, hey,
right, because again, you never want to, like, disappoint anybody, but I feel like when you're talking about, like, the ecosystem of, like, the venue and the vendors and the clientele who show up, and just like making sure that it all works, in totality, you have to be sort of selective, especially if you want your events to be of, like, a certain caliber.
Right.
Because obviously it's like, welcome to all individuals. Anybody can come. But I think that for what you're representing and the people that you are going to kind of, like, co-signing and saying, like, yes, you can be a part of this. I do understand that there needs to be, like, certain, like, standards and, like, levels. So what goes into your evaluation of, like, businesses that you want to work with, whether it's venues, whether it's vendors, like, how do you kind of, like, choose what makes the most sense? I know that you've obviously been in Colorado for so long. You have really good partnerships. I remember we did so many things at Desert Social and Adelitas. If you want to plug them, I absolutely love
Desert Social and Adelitas, family-owned business.
And those events were so amazing because obviously you had curated those relationships over a long time. So, like, now that it's evolving, going to other spaces, how do you hold on to that still same, family-owned business mentality while you're growing?
So you're good at these questions. I'm like, wow, okay. And I even saw the preview. But my priority with every event, for all parties that are included, so guests, vendors, venue, I want to make sure that it's a place that is kind and open-minded. That has kind of become, like, my tagline for this, that, I just said it so many times. I'm like, you know what? Anyone involved in this needs to be kind and open-minded. And with venues specifically, I want to make sure that it's also accessible. So I've had a couple of places reach out to me that are, like, on Colfax, in the middle of the construction and all the things. And I'm like, love you, love your business, here for that. But this just wouldn't be in the best interest of the people that I'm welcoming into this space, because it's not really the safest environment.
Yeah, there's also no parking.
There's that. Yeah, there's also no parking. It's actually funny. Somebody had commented on TikTok for one of the videos I posted, and she was like, I just want to make sure there's parking at this space because I won't come if there's not parking. And I was like, I totally hear you, but also, like, if you're drinking, you should Uber. So
yeah.
like, I don't really know what to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's the people first. So the owners of the business, I like to get to know them a little bit before pursuing this, because I really do believe that the people who come to these events are like divinely there. So they're not just like there by accident. They didn't come across my videos by accident. They're not going to be in this space with other people whose energies are so loving and welcoming. I honestly believe that my events also repel people that are not interested in that. I've seen it in real time where it's like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. That looks too whatever. Whatever's going through their head, but I love it. So I want to make sure that wherever I'm having these events and who's included is just of that same mindset and mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you have to be kind of like selective with the venues, vendors that you work with, but also obviously it's curating a specific type of individual who wants to come. And I think that leads really well into my next question, because we were talking earlier about fourth spaces, which again are like third spaces, are basically places where you can kind of like be around other individuals, whether that's parks, whether that's coffee shops, or just like out in groups. Whereas fourth spaces are really places that you're out, you're building that community intentionally, there's goals. So you have events that range from, women, meeting other women, you have couples events, you have fitness events. We just did a fun one.
Yeah. Shout out, plug.
We did yoga on the rooftop. So how do you kind of define the purpose of the events before you put them on? Does it just come to you? Do you feel inspired? Are you like, wow, we haven't had this kind of event in a while? Like, how do you decide what that purpose is going to be? Because obviously the communities that come out are very different. Like for the fitness event, beginners yoga that we did, I don't typically teach beginners yoga. Like typically, since I teach at Core Power, I teach people who've done yoga before. So it's a big shift for me, and it's so exciting to like get people into yoga and showing really the foundations, but it's definitely different than teaching people who, go 5 times a week. So every event has a purpose. Every event has a different purpose. How do you come up with that purpose? And how do you make sure that you realize the success of that purpose at the end? Like, what are your kind of like definitions of like, wow, that was successful from like idea inception to fruition?
Man, I'm gonna keep saying this. I'm like, this is such a good question. Honestly, asking questions is a skill. So you're very good at it.
Thank you. I've been in sales for a decade, so it's kind of my job.
Yeah, you're like, asking questions is what I get paid to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, you're good at it. Because this is all so new and I've been figuring it out literally month to month, this whole year has been this like beautiful trial and error experience where I have a gazillion ideas of what we could do and what would be fun. And then I just kind of, I say we, me and Mitchell, my fiance, we just write them down. We have this little notepad actually in the shower. They're like shower notes. So there's like with waterproof paper and a pencil. And that's, where most people's great ideas come in the shower. So we, like for Safe Space, the alien one, that was something that, this is too TMI. That's something we came up with in the shower. And we wrote it down. We're like, oh my gosh, that would be so cool to do like an alien themed friendship mixer situation. Honestly, I think I get inspired by a lot of things, and every event inspires another idea where I'm like, oh, I meet somebody or I talk to somebody and they share something about themselves. I'm like, you know what, that would be cool to do an event. Funny story, there's a guy named Jordan who was at one of the events, and we were talking to a girl named Jordy, and she's like, my name's actually Jordan, but like I go by Jordy. I'm like, oh, we're all Jordans. And he was like, okay, crazy idea. What if you did a friendship mixer for only people named Jordan?
Oh my gosh, my middle name is Jordan. Can I come? Maybe it should just be like J names.
That was so funny because it was like there are so many people named Jordan in our generation, but also like I just thought that was a funny idea.
Oh yeah, my mom says it was after the River Jordan, and my dad says it was after Michael Jordan. So we'll never know. Okay, they just
spelled the same way. So like you choose. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I think that's amazing. Like obviously these like ideas are coming to you, and you're creating really incredible spaces for people to connect. Now there's a lot of community builders in Denver. I feel like it's kind of like, is it considered like an industry or a job that's really rising? Like I know people, it's kind of like gone from more like event planners that are more general to individuals who work with businesses to highlight and showcase. So what are your takes on, and I don't know if this is unique to Denver, like I've seen some things like this in like Chicago. I feel like in New York it's more like influencer events. I feel like Colorado and Denver as a whole, maybe it's just because I'm a part of this community, people have really been focusing on how do we host more pop-up events. A lot of them are fitness oriented. So what's your thought on the rise of this kind of like career? And as someone who recently quit her full-time job to pursue this full-time, like what really drove that like desire, and like what are your thoughts on this new kind of like community network organizer type role rising?
Yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing until somebody, a friend of mine who I collaborated with on an event, she sent me this article, and it was like, our event organizers or community organizers, the new influencers, and there was this whole, I think it was a Forbes article actually, and it was so interesting because that never crossed my mind when I started this. The goal was not to make it a career or to make it a job or anything. Like, it was just something I loved doing, and that's what clicked for me, is when I realized as much work and hours that I put into these events and this community, it doesn't feel like work. And I was like, oh, this is the dream. This is what everybody's trying to do. They want to find something that pays the bills, which we're not totally there yet, but it's okay.
We're making progress.
We are brand new. We were born in January. But yeah, once I realized that like I can do something I love and then also find ways to be compensated for that I needed to pursue that. Despite things not being, financially where I would like them to be at the moment. I know that the money will come, and I've always been a firm believer that the more you give, the more you gain. So when you are putting good energy into the world, when you're helping others, when you're being a selfless person, it always comes back around.
Absolutely.
And so right now I'm like, okay, I'm in the building phase. I'm in a growth period, which like that's never comfortable, and I'm not going to have that much money right now. That's okay, because with what, the resources that I have, the family support I have, the people in my life, the community of the Friendship Mixer, like as long as people continue to enjoy the events, meet new people, form better relationships, and are overall like having better lives because of it, like it will figure it out. Everything else will figure itself out.
And I love that like growth mindset piece. It's like you're not where you want to be yet, but that doesn't mean it's not going to come. And I love that you have like such strong faith. And I think that actually a lot of pieces are falling into place at the right time. Obviously, the Forbes article of like the rise of community organizers, the like, opportunities that have presented themselves just by like all of the kind of like foundational building blocks that have led you up until this point of like, being from Colorado, connecting with like different like local businesses, creating an online presence that really resonates with people where they can see themselves at your events. Now, I know we lightly touched on this, but one of the pieces that's the most important are the people on the other side of it who like actually end up like coming to these events. So do you have any thoughts on like why now is such a prime time for in real life connection? Because I feel like coming out of COVID, a lot of people were craving that. Like, I work in tech, so I was remote during COVID, and that was like pretty challenging, kind of being so isolated just on your computer and with the people that you can connect with like over a screen versus coming out of it. I do feel like maybe that is part of the reason that people are also more comfortable connecting in person, because I think that there's this like myth and this theory that like Gen Z just always wants to be on their phones and they don't want to like get out and like actually meet people, which I mean, I haven't seen that. I know what people make like a lot of assumptions about, different generations, and there's always that kind of insinuation that certain generations just don't want to do certain things, but that's not something that I've seen. So I'm just curious, like, what do you think makes this the right time for people to connect this way in person across a variety of ages and demographics?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because the Gen Z population is the smallest population that comes to the events.
Interesting.
And like I said earlier, I haven't, positioned the Friendship Mixer or any of the marketing that I do to attract a certain population of any sort, but it's primarily our generation, people in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s who are like, I want to be here, which the 40 plus crowd was something I did not expect at all.
But they're a good time.
They're a great time. And I'm like, yes, cheers. Cheers. Come thing. Yep. But I think in general, people, it's interesting what's happening because I've talked to a lot of like even bars with just what's going on in the like restaurant industry with people drinking less. And so alcohol sales are down. Not that you have to drink, but just when it comes to people going outside and like trying to find community, people are looking for other ways to do that don't involve alcohol. And then on top of that, it's like there's this weird thing happening in the restaurant industry where because of where minimum wage is at and what tipped employees are needing to make and what their restaurateurs are required to pay them, there's a lot of variables and things at play that are like causing just a whirlwind of experiences, I think, for everyone involved on the business side and on the customer facing side. So more than ever, I think people are excited about getting out and doing things and connecting with people because of the state of the world and honestly with how much are we allowed to cuss on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. The amount of fuckery that's happening.
The amount of riffraff.
My God. With the administration, just everything, politics. There's so much chaos, and I think people are just looking to be grounded somewhere and to lead a generally healthier lifestyle. I'm looking to be the bridge between multiple things right now because I'm not anti-alcohol or drinking or anything like that, but I also understand that like people want more of like alcohol-free experiences, but then there's also businesses that need people to buy their alcohol or buy. So I'm like, how can we generate more just revenue and community for businesses and for people where everybody wins?
Yep.
It's a huge challenge, but I'm trying to figure it out.
And I actually love that. So I would love to like kind of like unpack like a little case study because obviously you were really connected with like Desert Social. So tell us a little bit about like that partnership, how you got connected with their like owners and how you are helped to actually grow their business, grow the foot traffic. Like I went to an incredible event. It was the mezcal tasting where there was the mezcal connoisseur who flew in and gave a whole demonstration, and I feel like it's a really good example of again bringing people together. You didn't have to drink at the event, but the purpose was to highlight this brand, highlight this venue, and also get people exposed to something new. And obviously that's a business, and I was really impressed with that, the way that turned out. But how are you thinking about again Vaz Events being that bridge and helping people to helping people connect with other people, but helping businesses connect with their end consumers?
Yeah. The mezcal tasting was actually, I was brought onto that to help promote the event. So it was something that they had already, they connected with Juan Coronado. He's the man that created the mezcal. So they already had that plan. They just needed my help in getting people there, which was super fun for me. So because of the friendship mixer and my experience with this business, I formed Vaz Events LLC because I knew that there's space for me to continue learning and growing, but also support businesses in attracting customers and growing their business by the fact of I've been able to do it kind of like organically with my own thing. And so I want to be able to do that for other people. And with Desert Social, they've been really, really helpful in growing my confidence in this space, and then also allowing me to do some trial and error with events there. We did a dinner in June, I think it was called First Taste Denver, and that was the first time they had done like a family style dinner event, and it was my first time doing something like that where I'm like helping organize it and getting it together. So they were very instrumental in helping me learn what I love about that and where there's room for growth, mostly on my part. But yeah, I guess as far as just the relationship goes with them, we've found value in both of the skills that we bring to the table when it comes to business and community building. That's kind of just where I've been kind of getting a lot of my, footing in the space with. I don't know, there's still a lot in the air as far as like the actual Vaz Events business goes. I'm still developing that and trying to figure out what direction I want to go. Yeah, I think that's...
I love
Does
it.
that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So while you're defining, where you want to go and where you're taking this next, obviously you don't have it all figured out, but what are the things that are most exciting to you? Because I think like one of the pieces of being a founder, CEO, leading your own brand and building your own community, building your own business, is that you kind of have to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Because when you get to define your own career, you get to choose like, okay, these are the things that I'm really good at. These are the things that really resonate. Or, with the, Desert Social Family Style Dinner, maybe there's things that like you learned that you like. There's things you learned that you don't like. You can kind of like remove the aspects that you don't like, but you kind of have to obviously encapsulate all of the things that are essential. Like you have your non-negotiables, but then you get to like pick and choose what are like the like sprinkle add-ons. Like for example, I do not like event planning. I do not like coordination. I hosted that rooftop charity event, and honestly it was such an incredible experience. It was so fulfilling, it was so rewarding, but the pieces that led up to it, that hard work, that coordination, that venue coordination, ticket sales, all of that stuff, I didn't like. I was like, you're like,
and not for me.
And when you sorry. And so it's like when you know what it is that you don't like, then you can like avoid doing that. And you can just work with an event planner and an event coordinator, which is what I will be doing in the future. But I'm curious, like, how are you picking and choosing what it is that you do like, what it is that you don't like? And so what does that next evolution look like for you?
I have a really cool opportunity ahead of me that I am embarking on. I hired a business coach, and she let me know that she's like, I host a retreat every year where I host it for all of my clients, and it's like an intensive mastermind deep dive, a business retreat. With the things that happen there. And she was like, I had somebody drop out last minute and I can't give them their deposit back because of how late we are into the planning and everything. So you can come for half off. So I was like, oh my God. Sorry, I'm having a whole
No, you're totally fine.
Anyway, so she was like, you can come for half off. And I was like, I feel like I have to go. And even, so I leave Saturday. Very excited, going to Mexico.
Amazing! Oh my gosh!
Yeah. But, leading up to, this week, we've talked about just like getting things on the calendar. Which, that sounds like an obvious thing. Like, okay, yeah, you're going to schedule out some events to plan. Having somebody else tell me that, like, no, when you're having these conversations with people, don't delay the process of getting things going. Even if the date needs to change or the, pieces or the details of the event need to change, but like get things on the calendar to forecast as much as possible. And that for me was like kind of life-changing, because now in these last 2 weeks, I have been like, go meeting with people to get things on the books, which has been really empowering, because I'm like, oh, okay, I thought I could do this, but it's like now I'm doing it. Like I'm really doing it outside of just like the mixers. I'm forming these new relationships, and every time I have like, I guess really like put myself out there and I've said yes to so many things, like doors just keep opening, and it's like paving the way for like, okay, no, this is possible, this can happen, and it's just been really exciting.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what is the Mexico retreat going to entail? Like, is it like as a like participant in just like learning and absorbing and trying to figure out new ways to grow your business, or what are you most excited about?
I'm really excited to do, well, for one, just to have like very like concentrated, locked in time to just work. To like plan, to mind map, to put all of, because there's so many things. Like for one, the website, I need to have that. I need to get it done. But I spend my days like meeting with people, talking to people, emailing, Zoom calls, and it's all great and it's all very needed, but I am excited to just sit there and like tap into my creative side and just get some of that structure in place so that it's not just like, on the back burner anymore. But the coach is also going to be walking us through strategizing, learning how to build a business beyond just like the nuts and bolts. Like, how do you create a sustainable business that's going to be fulfilling for you, but then also make you money? Like, beyond, like, how do we set goals that are actually going to be achievable? Like, just a lot of, like, really solid things are just going to be foundational to me being able to really launch and expand this business. So I'm excited.
I think that's such a good point, because it's like when you're executing, you're working in kind of like one area of a business, but you're not planning, you're not growing. And sometimes if you're just like always in execution mode and just focused on the next event, the next conversation, the, you know, next meeting, like preparing, you know, and just again focusing on delivery, you don't get to really like create that foundation, because honestly your business just like took off so fast that like I think a lot of people sometimes get stuck in the planning phase without ever doing. And you're like the opposite, where you just got stuck doing that you're like, oh my gosh, I need a break to plan, because your business is going to be one in a quarter. So how are you looking at making this last quarter the most impactful to set yourself up for a really strong 2026?
This retreat will be a large part of that. So just having that time away to sit down and like work on the business versus in it, that's going to be huge. And then I'm still going to have one event per month through, you know, the end of the year, but they're not going to be as, as, I wouldn't even say as big. Because I have the system down of what I know I want to like continue to do, they're not as challenging to put together. So
lower lift.
Yeah. And so that'll be like I'll kind of like, you know, just finish out the year strong, but like I have so many big ideas for things I want to implement next year and partnerships that I'm creating. So it's kind of like I'm getting to Connie, my coach, she calls it landing the plane. She's like, we need to do, because I have so many ideas, even beyond the friendship mixer. I'm like, she's like, we can't do them all at once, so like let's just like one thing at a time. So that's kind of how this feels, like ending the year with just like these final 3 events. What is it? It's September, October, November, December, and then starting off January 2026 with all of the planning in place and forecasting to just take off.
And that's so exciting. So obviously there's going to be a lot to watch, like going into this next year. You're going to be doing so many amazing things. I promise I will be front and center at every event that I can make. But going to like the personal side of, obviously you're building this business, which is super exciting. You know, I'd be curious how you decided to take on so many incredible personal shifts at the same time, because obviously you just got engaged. Congratulations. I know that Mitchell is a huge part of like, you know, your support system and what you're building as well. So can you tell me a little bit about like, what's it like to work with a partner who's obviously incredibly supportive, but you have your professional life, you have your personal life. Like, how are you balancing everything and still staying sane as someone who's going to be planning a wedding soon?
Yeah. Wow. LOL. So thank God Mitch, my fiance, is the most supportive champion of my entire life. He is just, I don't know what I would do without him, honestly. He's like my right hand, my right side, my partner, everything. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, so the reason why I had to kind of like stop working at the salon is because it was too much with like doing these personal life changes, and then also working full time for my parents. Right now, because I've been able to just focus on my business, it's made everything else feel a lot easier. So, and it's funny because Mitch and I are not like, we haven't been the most like on it with wedding planning and just like, it's a priority, but it's also like not at the forefront of our lives right now because we are really busy with like building my business, but then also trying to buy a house and figure that out. We're just kind of like order of operations. What is that? Like which one comes first? How do we make sure this makes sense for all of us? But at the end of the day, he's super supportive and we're just taking it one day at a time really. So.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, quick plug, if anybody is in Denver and like looking to buy a house, my realtor Taj Wan is going to be on the next episode of our podcast, which I'm incredibly excited about, because she helped me buy my house when I was 25 and I had no idea how to do it, and she literally broke down every single step of the process. Amazing. She's like one of the most incredible Black women that I know, so we'll absolutely connect you with her. But it's really surprising to hear that, like, you know, you're not the most on it with wedding planning, because as an event planner, are you going to be planning your own wedding, or are you going to be delegating that out? And I think that goes into like a really good question about like, how do you know when to take things on for yourself versus how do you know when to partner and delegate? And is that something that you're going to be taking into the next year as you try to grow and scale? Because obviously, as someone who wants to control everything and be have like their hand in every pot, sometimes you need to know when to like delegate and like let someone else take the lead. So personally, are you planning your own wedding? Professionally, have you learned anything about how to scale your own capabilities?
I'm not planning. This might be news to Mitch if you're watching. I'm not planning our wedding. Yeah, maybe that's kind of why I've been like, we'll figure it out, because honestly, it would be, I am the type of person who, I know my lane, and I really respect when people are in their lane. So I'm not a wedding planner. I have no interest in being the whole thing. It's a lot. And I'm like, no. I will tell you like my favorite colors and then take it away.
Go from there.
So yes, that also plays into with, you know, my business. I love empowering other people. So because I've been somebody who's had the, you know, fortune of being empowered by so many amazing influential women in my life, it feels good to be able to do that for somebody else. And my experience this year has been really interesting, where I've had so many women, you being one of them, who have just come alongside me and been like, here's where I'm excited to be supportive of you, and like, how can I help? But then also like, how can we help each other? And that's been really exciting, because it makes me feel like, oh, I'm not the only one that cares about this. Like, I can actually lean on some other people and other people's creativity and ideas, and what are their strengths, and how can we have this symbiotic, you know, relationship where we can help each other grow. And that, you know, in the future is what I really see. It's where I see this going, where it's not like me all like running the events all the time. It's like I can cast the vision, but I would love to see people, especially doing what I'm doing underneath the same, you know, umbrella of the Friendship Mixer, but maybe it's in LA, maybe it's in Chicago, maybe it's in the Springs, wherever people want to be, but they can be empowered and have the systems to be able to kind of like plug and play what I've been doing.
Absolutely. I think that like expansion idea is so important, because as we mentioned earlier, like Denver is such a hub for like, you know, connecting, because there's so many people who are new to Denver, who are, you know, and want to build those like, you know, networks, friendships, professional relationships, whatever they may be. And I feel like this is such an amazing full circle moment, because I remember like a few months ago when we were talking about really kind of like how I can launch Overcompensated in like a more IRL type environment and type way, and I just am very, very excited about the, you know, potential and like moving forward, how, you know, we can collaborate with each other, with other incredible women, and really bringing to light the connections and the conversations that are super important to help us all grow and to help us all feel, you know, empowered, and like we can take ownership of like the next phase of our lives. And I feel like that's very core to like my identity, which is like obviously like what I recognized in you as well. It's like, you know, we are women who want to be empowered, who want to take ownership, who really want to like create a vision and then share it with others. So on that point, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to share with the like Overcompensated community? Any like takeaways or advice that you have for someone who's just getting started, who's just building, who might not necessarily have the full confidence that they can do something yet, but to embrace your growth mindset and kind of do it anyway? Are there any kind of takeaways that you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah. I would say two things. One, be where your feet are. 'Cause it can get really easy to get stuck in the planning phase. And that's really what I experienced with my blog back in the day. It's like I spent a year and a half building my blog before I posted anything. Just like building it. Because I was like, I can't put it out there until it's perfect. And it's just like, if you just like can accept that where you're at is where you're at and you can only move forward from there, it's like put things into action. Like make it happen today. Just things will figure themselves out. They will, even if it's scary, because honestly, when you do the scary thing, that's when things start to open up and doors start to open. And the other thing is, you can never give too much. I had a more savvy way of saying that, and I don't remember what it was, but
I love that.
That's
a great one.
Yeah, like even when like you think that you don't like have enough time, energy, money, whatever the resource is, just always give it, because it always comes back around, and that's proven true in my life over and over again. So you can never give too much, and it's going to only make everything better for everybody. So.
And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment to end on. So I really appreciate you for coming on, for sharing your incredible energy, your connecting mindset, and your just like wisdom with the Overcompensated community. We really appreciate it. So for anybody who's looking to get in touch with you, who might be, looking to work on a project, whether in, Denver or somewhere else, like what's the best way to follow you, to get in touch with you, to engage with you?
Yes, so the easiest way would be to follow the Friendship Mixer on Instagram, because as I am building things out and getting the website together, emails, all the things, it'll all be central to that Instagram account. Otherwise, my email is info@jordanvaz.com, so you can just contact me directly with anything and everything.
And anything for TikTok?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. This is how new I am to TikTok. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that.
You do have a TikTok.
I do have a TikTok, yes. So my TikTok is Lifestyled by Vaz. So if you want to get crazy, you can follow the blog. You can follow my personal account, which is also Lifestyled by Vaz. So maybe Lifestyle by Vaz is actually the place to start, because then I have it linked to the Friendship Mixer and to TikTok.
Incredible. Okay, so there's plenty of ways to connect with the connector. We really appreciate having you. This has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, and I cannot wait for all future potential events, collaborations. Everybody stay tuned. Everybody have an amazing day, and until the next episode. Bye!